There were some really awesome looking games shown off during the Indie World Nintendo Showcase last week. In fact, there were 29 games, much more than I expected, and I wanted to share with you 8 games that really got me excited to try out. Before we begin, if you've seen the Indie World Showcase, let me know in the comments section what games got you most excited. So the theme song is what got me for Aboy, and then looking closer at the graphic style, you don't see too many games that use this style, at least in this type of perspective. It kind of has that pop-up book, like that pop-up storybook look. A lot of Paper Mario looking kind of characters going around in a really adorable looking castle and city. You play as Skippy to stop an evil magician from destroying the world after his girlfriend, the princess, dumps him, and this is where you're resurrected. And it's really cool because I was reading more into it and it looks like it has a lot of customization, and that is really cool, switching different body parts for different looks. And also there's 5 unique weapon types, and it releases later this year. I'm actually really excited for this, again because of that theme song. It's really good and I recommend listening to it, and I really hope that they release the full theme song somewhere because they did a really awesome job with it, and I really hope it does well when it comes out. The Torus is a game that I initially threw away and I didn't think about it too much when I was watching this showcase, and I came back to it and I watched it again, and after learning more about the developer Shin'en Multimedia, I learned that they have some really cool games like Fast RMX, which is a really neat F-Zero type of racing game on the Switch. So I looked more into this one and I found that it has more things that isn't like shown, and there's other activities and stuff that you do on the island with a lot of puzzles, and there's arcades. You play arcade games, swimming, surfing. You do a lot of other activities on the island, and it looks like this game is going to probably open up in the exploration as you look at these puzzles, especially later on in the trailer. It looks like there's going to be some weird stuff happening, and I wonder, is it going to be random or is it like all played out? It'll be very cool, and I'm really excited now for this game, especially since it's using the voxel art style in a different approach, and that's not like generic like you see in a lot of other games. I like how it has its own style. Looks like a toy set, which is really awesome, and I really hope this game does well when it comes out. I guess if there's any more information on it, I would actually like to cover it in the future. This is a game that I didn't expect at all. Freedom Finger is a game where you fist and finger your enemies to death, and this is a totally family-friendly game. So this is a game that's being developed as a shoot 'em up or a shmup that has some really cool things in it, like the art style. It really reminded me of Adult Swim games for some reason. It just has that certain crazy look to it. This has a lot of music in it, and in fact it's over like 38 tracks, I believe, and from the trailer, that is really good music. This also has some really famous voice actors like Nolan North and John DiMaggio, which was very surprising, and it's also heavily connected to the music with the gameplay. So things like enemies and bosses sync to the music. I'm very curious to see how that plays out and how heavy it will actually be once you play it and how it'll feel. I'm glad that we're seeing more shoot 'em up games coming out because there's just so many different things you can do with the art, and I'm really happy the way that this is approaching in the cartoon art style, and I can't wait till it comes out. Hopefully others, fans of the genre or even fans that just like some really good music, can jam out while also giving the enemy the finger. Talk about surprises. Eastward. This is one beautiful looking game with a lot of inspiration from 90s Japanese animation. This is an adventure RPG where you travel a decaying continent in the future. You play as John and Sam. So these two characters go around traveling and trying to see this alien threats, these creatures devouring everything, and you want to know more about Sam's origins because that's a mystery. I always like when games always have that mystery in the beginning, either if someone has amnesia or if someone's past is related to the creatures, or if anything, you know, those stories like that is always either good or bad. This is a story-driven game, so I really hope that it really pulls its weight. And not only that, it has weapons in it, so things like a flamethrower, a gun, or who knows what else you can use in this game. I hope the gameplay is good. You don't really see too much of the gameplay in the trailers. You see little snippets here and there, but I'm sure that we'll see more as the game progresses. And if anything from the trailer, besides the beautiful pixel art, is the amazing music in the trailer. It has some really beautiful music that was really emotional. You know, it set up the tone for the whole Eastward, the whole world decaying, the whole continent being destroyed. And I really hope that we get to see more of this soon in the future. I'm surprised I didn't hear about this game before, but at the same time, with so many indie games coming out nowadays and being produced, it's so difficult to keep up with it. I really hope Pixpill, the developers for this, and also they have the publishers Chucklefish, I hope they are able to deliver an awesome game. In Sparklight, you play as a girl named Ada who must travel to different zones in order to stop the Baron's plans. This is dealing with a lot of pollution that's rotting the world away, and this is in a top-down perspective. So an RPG adventure game looking really similar to The Legend of Zelda in inspiration, which is always a welcome game into the indie market when you see some really cool games being developed with that type of inspiration and perspective. This one is going for a more scientific approach with using schematics and using other scientific things, kind of having the theme play a very important role in this game. And I'm curious to see how much of science will play an important role in this game. Also a game I want to see more combat on, to see how difficult it will be, or if it's going to be a more relaxing game, because like in the trailers you see the enemies are pretty much like really slow. I'm curious to see if they're going to be faster, if there's going to be a difficulty setting, or if it's just like most of the stuff is still, of course, a work in progress. I really wish Red Blue Games the best of luck, and I hope that you're able to give us a wonderful experience in the story and the gameplay, and also some memorable characters. Are you ready for a violent, gory Metroidvania? This is a skill-based hack and slash with a narrative core. And Metroidvania, it's always cool seeing more of these coming out, and this one is a nice surprise being a mature theme. So this has a lot of blood, of course, a lot of violence. I think it has nudity. There's a lot of stuff to that, but beyond that, beyond the gore and nudity, it looks like to be a really fun skill-based game. Initially, when I seen this game, I was just mesmerized by the beautiful pixel art. There's really beautiful pixel art, then there's like insane detail in some pixel arts, like the Metal Slug series from in the past. Like this game has some really beautiful looking creatures, and I want to know more about these creatures, more lore, and that's what you're going to be doing in the game, learning lore of the characters you come across and why they are tormented. So that's going to be really interesting. This game also has a good amount of customization, it seems, through the relics, rosary beads, prayers, and sword hearts, which those all sound interesting, and it seems like a lot of customization with a lot of Metroidvania games. I hope this game does really well, and it's a game that goes beyond just the violence and the gore and all of that, and it delivers like a solid game in the gameplay and the mechanics, and just feeling good when you're like attacking an enemy. That's very important, and hopefully Blasphemous will give us a crazy experience. But OK is a game that I fell in love with just because of the beautiful art. This is a game that has a unique style that is 3D, but when I look at it, it's like, is that 2D or is that 3D? But it's using a different style of lighting to make it seem like both. Is really weird, and that's what initially drew me in. This is a game that can be enjoyed by all, as it's a puzzle adventure game, and this is non-violent. So if you're a fan of violent games, you might not like this at all, but if you're someone who just wants to chill out and learn about Scandinavian folklore, this is something that you might be interested in. And I always like that new games are coming out now with different cultures and how their folklore is. Some are really creepy, some are really cool. You see these giant wolves, it's just really awesome. And I'm very happy to see more of these story-based games come out. Games that are just there to be enjoyed, story-driven games. And this one in particular, you make friends with monsters, and there's also going to be enemies. So I'm curious how that's going to play out, how the puzzle aspect is, especially in a non-violent game. I'm just wondering like how that's all going to play out. Maybe non-violent just means there's like not any weapons, or I guess we'll find out, since it is a puzzle game, if it's going to have any challenge or if it's just going to be a chill game. Whatever the case is, I hope it turns out really good. Pinballs with swords. Well, that's it. Okay, so this is an action adventure game and it looks really cool. A top-down perspective using elements of pinball and of course hack and slashing, using it on puzzles. You're trying to free a city from being captured in a sandstorm, and that looks just really awesome. I like how it has this really rough and gritty type of art going for it. There's 20 unique items to customize for your weapons and clothing that changes the gameplay. I hope there's a lot of changes in the gameplay. I know some games say that it changes the gameplay and it's very minimal. And there's other games that change the gameplay and it's like, wow, that is an entirely different game. And it just gives more replayability to it. This is one that I really liked because I looked more into this game and I enjoyed the devlog of explaining the game. And I really wish more devs would do this, as I was interested in the game much more after hearing more about like the mechanics and why they started to create a game like this. It's just really intriguing to hear different developers and hearing their opinions, and this is just something I would love to hear more of. Were there any games on this list that you were excited about, or ones that I didn't mention? There were so many, like Ori and the Blind Forest, Spiritfarer, and Cat Quest 2. It was really hard to decide, but I hope you enjoyed my thoughts and my ramblings. If you did, enjoy that, then consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell notification to stay up to date with indie and Nintendo content if that is your jam. As always, everyone, thank you for watching and take care.